How we doing, guys? Another episode of Tea with Andrew. Another episode where it kind of a previous conversation spurred the interest and kind of made us realize that the importance of this topic, and more people should be getting it than just the few that were around the table when we were having this conversation. Kind of a backstory. I've actually done a Tea with Andrew about this in the past, talking about a good friend of mine works for a builder in Dallas. He was telling me a story about how clients were a nightmare. Everything was going bad. Finally, the builder said, "You know what? We're done. We're not playing anymore." Terminated the contract with them. Actually gave them all of their money back for upgrades. Did everything. Said, "You know what? You're not worth our time in this market. We're not playing the game." Relisted the property for $100,000 more. A week later, after he told me the story, I saw a news article where the people who were buying the house bashed him or bashed the company, talking about how horrible this thing was, and hearing that side of the story, of course, that means the Facebook warriors got on there and started bashing the company. The company had 700 negative comments within the next 24 hours. And we're starting to see the same kind of things going on here in a similar yet different situation. And what's going on is a lot of builders are terminating deals, restructuring deals, trying to tell realtors that they're going to get paid, they're going to pay less of a commission or do different things. So I kind of want to have a conversation. Brian does work with a builder, so we can hear both sides of a story. Remember, no one's the villain in their own story. Everyone has a bad guy, and we don't think about the other side of the coin. So I thought it would be a great opportunity for Brian and I to have some discussion, talk about it. And like I said, make you think from someone else's point of view and understand where the builders are coming from. In no way am I saying they're perfect, and no way am I saying they're the villain. But in this current market, we've got to make changes and figure out how to make the deal work.
Yeah, and I want to kind of highlight on that story. I mean, the story was written from a perspective of the buyer, and therefore the perspective came out as the perspective that they were the perfect buyer, they were ready to close, they didn't ask for anything, and the builder just took it away. And unfortunately, as you mentioned, it does become their own story, and they will make a villain out of the other person because that's the intention of the story, right? A newspaper article doesn't sell well without a villain. Right. And that's the conversation that needs to be transpired. But to the extent of builders in their current situation. So I know we've felt this in real estate, and we've seen it, and we've heard it, and we've seen the articles and all this stuff about how material cost is changing. But what we need to realize is that material cost is changing also disseminates down to the concept that cost for builders is more expensive. And keep in mind, I've been in that same scenario. We had a contract that was recently going through. They were not going to close on the deal in the time frame that they originally allotted. The builder decided to terminate out of convenience. And most builders have a convenience clause in their contracts. So they terminated out of convenience. They came back and we said, we still want it. And they said, okay. They didn't actually change the terms of the price. They changed the terms of the commission offered to me. So it actually turned out that it wasn't affecting the buyer at all, but it would affect me on my commission structure. Could they do that? Can they do that? That was the conversation that this kind of stemmed from, is that, we had a lawyer in the room. Lawyers are going to take what they can in the respect of a fight and an argument. So the argument can go both ways, right? And what I brought up is, I also represent a builder. I represent two of them, and I'm seeing what their margins are doing on the background, right? A sheetrock piece at $8 2 years ago is now $34, $56 down on that, right? So this is a category that kind of comes into play, is that the price has changed. And with the price changing, their margins have changed. And I think that's something that lost on real estate agents oftentimes, is that it's just the big bad villain. But we still have to realize, do we want that builder to be in business next year? And that's something I think we fail to think about oftentimes. And I love to look at it as devil's advocate, because I think that if you look at everything as a devil's advocate, you at least understand that maybe it's not the devil's advocate, maybe it's just an advocate in general, right?
Well, it's seeing the big picture, and it's really easy to get caught up in your contract. And you've been working with your clients for 2, 6, 8, possibly 10 months. They're excited, they're happy, they're ready to finally close on this home, and then they get hit with this bill saying, hey, you need to raise the rates. We're going to need to do these different changes. And it's very easy to get caught into we have a contract, you can't do this to me. But if you step back and realize a builder's working on 50 houses, they can't lose $50,000 a house for 50 houses and still be in business. It's impossible. And
neither can the supplier, for that matter.
Right.
And it's an up chain, right? It's not the builder that's charging you more. It's the supplier that's charging the builder more. It's the labor cost that's coming down the pipeline. Listen, if you don't offer somebody today $30 an hour, they don't even want to get out of bed.
It's in everything. It took everything I had not to get on my phone this morning because I was listening to 93.1, and they're talking about how horrible it is that all these big evil landlords are raising rents on these poor innocent tenants. And it's easy to forget that the average property went up $200 a month in rent just to break even on the raise in property taxes that went into effect. And we don't sit there and think about that or notice that or care about that. It's easy to say, oh my gosh, these horrible landlords are just trying to make money. When in fact, everybody's voting these people into office. These people in the office are raising taxes, and that's going to have an effect across the board. And people don't realize that. Say, hey, it raises property taxes. That doesn't affect me. I rent. And then you're going, why are my rents going up? And it's true, like you said, it's true across the board. If the cost of sheetrock goes up, then the cost of everything is going to go up. The cost of nails goes up. The cost of delivering the sheetrock from the manufacturer to Lowe's and Home Depot is going to go up. And it's something we don't think about, where we're stuck with our mind with, we've got a contract. The same issues going on with landlords who are saying, hey, I've got 9 months before I can raise rents. I'm going to lose $400 in property taxes going up, and there's nothing I can do about it, and it's unfortunately true. There's nothing you can do. We're seeing across the board where we are a just-in-time society, and there's a lot of issues with the just-in-time right now. Appliances that are supposed to be off the truck Friday because we sold them aren't getting here until November, and it's affecting the market worldwide. We in the property management business, we're now seeing a situation where people are coming in saying, I'll pay $300 more a month for this house because I want it, and the inventory is so low. Never would have thought we'd be in a situation like that.
Right.
And it's crazy, and it's one of those things. And I want this class or this discussion today for two reasons. One, you need to understand it's a possibility. If you're working with builders, builders like them, hate them, whatever, they're going to use the contract that is most likely going to be written by them. It's going to protect them. It's going to give them the house that they need to do. And it's kind of a golden rule situation. If you want to buy their house, you're going to use their contract. And if you don't like it, you don't have to buy it.
It's okay if they walk away from a contract and give back all the money, because they can sell it tomorrow for either a premium or at minimum the same price. And therefore, if they can do that, they are not worried about your contract, because they're more worried about the solvency of the company than your contract. And I think that's the concept that we as agents sometimes need to wrap our head around, is that it used to be that contract meant something to them. Today, it's about the entire surplus of everything that matters to them, right? Because it's that concept that the market has shifted, and it is positive in a lot of ways. But yesterday we were on a class where they just talked about they're trying to cut prices of building by building through concrete, printed machine concrete, because it's going to save money. Here we are, the builders have all these things coming at them, people going after their business. And then now we have the issue of there's not even enough land developed to build more houses. So now they have to plan, remember, not just for today, but what if they don't have land for tomorrow? How are they going to pay for their employees tomorrow? And these are things that we sometimes as agents don't think about.
Well, and I think as agents, you said it well, because as agents, we get very wrapped into the fact that we are independent contractors, and it's a great opportunity. It's a great business. I own a business. Brian, you have a team. I know you have staff. So you have a business. It's a whole different world when you got 10, 15, 20 people who are out of a job tomorrow if you don't open. If you're an agent and you decide, hey, tomorrow I'm done, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm going to go into work in whatever, that's fine, and no harm, no foul. If I decide tomorrow I'm done, I don't want to play anymore, and I close my business, a lot of people are out of a job. If Brian decides tomorrow, that's it, he's done, he's going to go be a stockbroker, a lot of people are out of a business. And when you got that on your head, and builders are sitting on labor costs of hundreds of people when you're counting subcontractors and other people that are involved. And it's
right. And the deal encompasses the fact that you as a agent want your buyer to have that that warranty in a year. And guess what? If the builder's not around, there's no warranty in a year, right?
And everybody's had a deal that they've made way more money than they deserve. Everyone's had a deal that they have been underpaid unbelievably. And it's the luck of the draw. You're in it long enough, it evens out in the wash, as they say. I mean, I've worked a builder deal one time where I almost felt guilty taking the check. Almost, I took it. Where the builder's rep was
commissionectomy sometimes happens too, though.
It does, and that's the thing where you've got to understand and remember. I mean, the age-old half a loaf is better than no loaf at all. If we're fighting over our commission and our client loses out a house, especially in this current market, it could be just drastic for your clients. And I'm not sitting there saying, hey, you need to take a loss and you need to lose your house so they get theirs. But we've got to be able to understand. Maybe we need to get to the table and work out a deal. Builders, same thing. I mean, unfortunately, builders are in a situation right now where they don't really need realtors. They were that way in 2006, and then 2009 happened, and then they needed us again. And unfortunately, realtors have long memories. Some of them are going to remember that they were treated poorly. Some are going to remember they were treated well. And it's just a sad truth. But that truth is also, though we have long memories, we have a short shelf life. I would say probably a fourth of all realtors currently in the board don't know in a real estate industry pre-COVID. And that's terrifying.
Yeah. And I think that's the key here, is that in any transaction, we need to just make sure that we are having a conversation with our clients with the understanding of what is their obligation. Do they need to implore talking to an attorney? Because remember, attorneys are paid to make arguments on behalf of said client, right? They're not, it's always nice to hear that an attorney is paid to interpret the law or to fight the interpretation of the law. But the reality is you can find an attorney to pretty much argue any point, right? That's pretty much, we know this. We know enough attorneys that we can probably say that out loud. So the point is that we just need to realize that protection of our client is paramount, but at the same time, sometimes that protection does encompass doing those things, right? Me taking a hit on a commission for my client to get a house, I will make up that on the basis that I will keep in touch with that client and they will turn into a multiple client. Whereas if I killed a deal because of a commission structure, I probably will never hear from that client again, right? Which one's worth more to me? Honestly, the long-term client, in my opinion. And I hope that's the case for everybody.
And more than I think we've got to, the number one thing is step back a minute and realize that there are multiple sides to a story. As they say, there's three sides to every story: your side, my side, the truth. We all will take a little bit more. There's and Brian and I are probably the worst at this to each other, where Brian and I should never text to each other ever, because there's a Key and Peele skit about people texting, one guy thinking they're joking, the other guy about to kill him. And it's so accurate. I mean, if you're in a bad mood and you get a text, you're going to put your bad mood and onto that text and that attitude, where there could be none of that at all. The same is true in a deal. If you're frustrated and you're freaking out and you're upset and this deal starts going bad, it's not going bad because of anything other than they're evil and they're trying to destroy my client. They're just trying to destroy me. We've got to step back, take emotion.
Yeah, the written word is so looked upon as a positive thing because it's for interpretation. One person reads Shakespeare and they hate it. One person reads Shakespeare and they love it because they interpreted it differently. They sounded it out in their head. The tone that they read it in was different. And that's the concept that happens on a contract. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's like anything else. It's like, the conversation of, and Brian, we've talked about this in the past as well, do a termite treatment. Well, in my mind, I'm going to do spot treatment. Your mind, you want an entire house treated and coned and sprayed and tinted and bulldozed and started over. We're both right. My wife and I have this fight all the time where, we have differences of opinion. She gets mad at me because I don't answer her, but she never asks me a question. It's cold in here. And I look at her and just look back. Well, well, what? You didn't ask me anything. But in her mind, that is her cue that she wants to have a dialogue.
Tell you to go turn down the AC.
Basically. But it is. And we need to stop thinking everybody is out to get us. We need to, and more than anything, we as the real estate professionals, and this is really not the right person to be saying this because I'm really bad at it. We need to take emotion out of the game. Our job is to be an innocent bystander and say, listen, you can do this. If you do this, this is what could happen. You can sue them. If you sue them, it could cost you a lot more money in legal fees.
And both of us have been in the business 16, ish years. And 16 years ago, we had relationships in deals, right? Today, it's us versus them in some format. And I don't know when that really translated. I don't know if it was maybe the changing of guard that has happened over that 16 years. But now it's like, guys, I'm not after you. You're not after me. We're just trying to get a deal done. But let's be truthful. Let's be honest. I hate when I hear an agent say, "Oh no, we're good," and then the lender calls me up and like, "Oh yeah, the deal just went sour." Like, I would have much preferred to hear that from the agent when I talk to him and ask them the question. Be honest with me, right? And the same thing goes for the builder. And I think I've even had the discussion with our builder. Let's be transparent. And they've done really good. Both the builders that I work with, they've done good about translating why it is, showing it to the appraiser of why that cost went up, showing it to the appraiser of, hey, listen, this is what we're making, this is what we were, and this is what we are. You can see we're losing money. And they split the baby a little bit on a lot of those things. So it just have that transparency in the deal, and I think the deal will go smooth.
And what you said is huge. I mean, if you come to me and say, hey, listen, here's the deal. I'm now losing this much money. How can we all lose a little bit to make this deal work, rather than you just saying, hey, I'm cutting out of the deal? There's a hugely different conversation. And there's a way to make it work. And there's good ways and bad ways. And I'm not saying I'm going to be happy about it, but I'm going to be a lot more willing to work with you and see what we can do to get things done. So mainly, guys, talk to your clients. If you're working with new builds, and again, new builds is just because the market price is continuously changing because the supply is changing. Warn your clients. Listen, guys, there's a chance things can change. There's a chance it's going to go up in cost. You have to warn them because we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball about what's going to happen in 3 months, 6 months from now. I mean, right now, if you guys have watched the news at all, it's a terrifying time. We don't know what's going to happen with oil. We don't know what's going to happen with Afghanistan. We don't know what's going to happen with anything. And who knows? I mean, I filled up for $3 a gallon today, and it wasn't $3 a gallon a year ago.
And when you look at the reason that supply chains are happening, it's a very interesting story, and it's not as black and white as political agenda or as anything else. A lot of it comes down to, and I'll just broaden spectrum this, the supply chain is having issues because shipping container shortage, right? So shipping container shortage is having issues because normally what used to happen is they'd ship the container over to us, and then we'd ship stuff out to them, right? But the problem is the shipping back to them stopped happening for a while because everything shut down. So we lost those shipping containers going back to places like China, to places like India, to all the distributing companies. And then now it's taking longer to get back over. So shipping containers is one of the scenarios of why we're having such a supply chain issue. And nobody would have ever even thought that, right? But you know what? Now you can buy a shipping container for dirt cheap. Whereas a year or two ago, it would have cost you an extra $600 or $700, and today it's nothing. So these are weird conversations that a lot of people don't have, and they forget to look at why is this happening. They just worry about there's no toilet paper on the shelves. They don't realize why is there no toilet paper on the shelves, and that's what sometimes we need to look at. So.
Absolutely. And just a thought, guys, to give you both sides of the story. Take that as you will, but spend some time with your clients and have that conversation and make sure everybody knows what's going on.
Yep. Excellent. Guys, thank you.
Remember, tomorrow Kent and I will be doing another conversation, and I believe tomorrow we decided we were going to be discussing the ever nightmarish temporary residential leases. So always a fun conversation and a terrifying conversation at the same time.
Should be interesting. Yeah. Stay away from them if you can. I hope that's the first point of advice.
That's the number one point of them. Absolutely.
Excellent. See you guys.
I appreciate it.